March 7th, 1965. A group of more than 600 people set out from Selma, Alabama, bound for the state capitol in Montgomery. They were marching for voting rights, part of the nonviolent movement that was happening nationwide. John Lewis was there, leading the way.
We're marching today to dramatize to the nation, dramatize to the world, that hundreds and thousands of Negro citizens of Alabama, but particularly here in the Black Belt area, denied the right to vote. And we intend to march to Montgomery to present certain grievances to Governor George C. Wallace.
The marchers crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, only to be stopped by state troopers.
This is an unlawful assembly. You are to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue.
The troopers attacked with nightsticks and tear gas. John Lewis and more than 80 others were injured. Television reports of the violence shocked the nation and put pressure on President Lyndon Johnson to act.
It is wrong to do violence to peaceful citizens in the streets of their town. It is wrong to deny Americans the right to vote. It is wrong to deny any person full equality because of the color of his skin. The promise of America is a simple promise. Every person shall share in the blessings of this land, and they shall share on the basis of their merits as a person. They shall not be judged by their color, or by their beliefs, or by their religion, or by where they were born, or the neighborhood in which they live.
Coming up, calls with Alabama Governor George Wallace, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, and Attorney General Nicholas Katzenbach, as President Johnson responds to Bloody Sunday. We begin on March 8, 1965. President Johnson talked about what happened in Selma with Attorney General Nicholas Katzenbach.
Was it the sheriff or the state troopers that stopped the march?
The state troopers stopped it, Mr. President, but most of the brutality was done by the sheriff's deputies. They were the fellows on horses. I saw that King said he was going into court this morning to do something. If he did, he might stop. Might be an alternative to his going tomorrow, but...
You mean to his marching tomorrow?
Yeah. If he went into court, it might put that off, which would be a good idea.
What would the three judges enjoin the sheriff from doing?
Well, they would enjoin the sheriff from interfering with the voting as he has been, and would order him to permit Negroes to proceed to the courthouse and in Selma there, and to march in an orderly way. And it also probably would require him to give them protection if they did so. Now, that won't touch Colonel Lingo and the Highway Patrol state troopers, because they're not in that, but it would prevent Sheriff Clark from doing what happened yesterday, because here were the Negroes, when they started going back into town, that was when he started beating up on them.
They weren't injured then just when the state troopers stopped them?
No. State troopers used the gas at the outset, and some of them apparently got a few tear gas burns. The injuries were, by and large, when they panicked and started running back into town, and then these deputies chased them on horses. That was when, although I don't know that anybody was seriously hurt. I was trying to get information from the hospitals last night, get the bureau to get it. Had a bureau agent hurt.
What happened to him?
He got beat up by two of them. Took his camera away. They got a lot of pictures, and we ought to be able to. They made 2 arrests. We ought to be able to make some more. I didn't give the arrests any publicity last night because 2 were arrested with them. One beat up the FBI agent. That didn't look right to me. From a public viewpoint, you know. All the Negroes build up, beat up, and you know, the people we arrested, the people who beat up the FBI agent. The reason was he could make the identification. But there ought to be some more arrests for that. And that ought to help the situation.
These policemen that were arrested?
No.
Who were they?
2 bystanders, white bystanders.
And they beat up the white.
One of them may have been a deputy, Mr. President. I'm not sure. They saw the FBI agent taking pictures, you see. Moved over to beat him up.
How many FBI men did you have?
About 20, Mr. President.
Did we take every precaution we could have or should have?
I think so, Mr. President. We had a large number there. Yesterday morning, I heard they were going to use tear gas. We told the Negro leaders that. I spoke to Senator Hill whether there was anything could be done. He could think of anything to be done with Governor Wallace and state troopers. He said he couldn't think of much. He did help me yesterday morning. Wilson Baker, who's been the Commissioner of Public Safety there at Selma, was going to resign in disgust because the mayor had interfered with his making some arrests of some white rowdies the day before, and the senator was helpful. The senator, among others, was helpful in making him change his mind, which that would have been serious. Had that been done, we had a large number of agents there. I had lawyers there on the scene, and I don't know there's much else the federal government can do in those circumstances. You know, short of taking the situation over, sending the army in.
Well, I see they're calling for that.
Well, they always have. If there's a way of communicating with George Wallace, if he'd be sensible, that would be what would make a difference. There's no reason why, that I can see why circumstances, terms, and conditions of these people marching couldn't be worked out. They were permitted to march part of the way, you know? Just something. Troopers could protect them on that. But I guess Wallace is determined not to, and I don't know what he's heading for.
Do you know Wallace very well?
Hardly at all, Mr. President. The trouble is that I don't know anybody
Who really does?
who really does.
What do the senators say?
Senators say they can't get to Wallace at all.
The congressman?
I haven't gone through the congressman, Mr. President. That delegation came so changed back, I don't really know him. You know, they're mostly Republicans now. I will this morning call our U.S. attorney in Birmingham, Macon Weaver. He may have some ideas on who could talk with Wallace about this. I'll give him a ring. He used to be quite active politically down there.
Doesn't have to be mighty quiet.
Yeah.
But Buford Ellington is a man of extremely good judgment. And he was born in Mississippi, raised there, and then identified with the rural elements of Tennessee, and became Ag Coast Commissioner, and then legislator, and then Ag Coast Commissioner, and governor. And when we came in, 61, they had a pretty bad situation in Nashville, and Selma Evans called me, a friend of mine, a paper there. They're pretty good people, good influence. Asked me to meet with them, and I called the governor, and he said he thought I ought to, and be glad to use his office. And I did. good many things he had done to clean up the state operations. They wanted us to clean up the post office. I've forgotten other things. He's come to Washington now, and I'm going to use him with the 50 governors. Quite way politically and on their problems in their state. Republicans, too. And he handles disaster problems and stuff like that on emergency planning. It could be that he knows Wallace. It could be he could sit down with you and you could give him some leadership direction. Might be he won't talk to him. I'll ask him if he knows him and how well he knows him, and if it looks like it has any confidence, Wallace has any confidence in him, he might be a go-between. I don't know. I just put that out for your thinking. He knows both sides of the coin, and I guess he's been on both sides. Sure. He's pretty well regarded, though, now as a modern leader.
Well, that'd be helpful if it might be helpful. It'd be worth talking with him to see what he thought he might.
I'll explore that. Are they directed by other people?
They've got more. No, they're not directed by Mr. President. They've got more communists and near communists than they do with the others. They got as many that are not. Lewis is not communist. He's a young fellow, and he's quite far out in that respect.
Do we have any influence with him?
Yes, some, not much. He's in the hospital right now. I cracked on the head yesterday. We have a little. I think King. The way I wouldn't try it directly with Lewis. I'd try to work with King through King to Lewis.
Does Lewis kind of work under the guidance of King?
Lewis would take King's recommendation on something like this.
What should we say over here in response to queries? Refer them to justice?
I think you should refer them to justice and let us handle it, Mr. President. We may have things coming. We may have further arrests and so forth.
Who is your top press man?
Rosenthal.
What's his given name?
Jack.
Jack, what's his background?
He's came from the Portland Oregonian. He was a reporter out there. He's a young fellow. He's about 30. He's editor of the Harvard Crimson. Went back home to Portland.
You bring him in, or was he in the office when you came in?
He came. He was in when I came.
So he's had a good deal of experience.
He's had a good deal of experience. Yeah.
Good.
Very bright fellow.
Good. Yeah, it looks like it. Looks like he handles his stuff well. Okay, Nick, you don't think of anything else I need to know?
No, I was going to give you a call about this, Mr. President, but I can't think of any good to tell you.
Well, I don't need to think. Just call me and tell me when you need to. But be sure that you and Dora and Rams in all your people make it to top billing and keep right on top of it. And we do anything that we need to do.
Right.
Okay.
I'll be with it all day.
President Johnson and Attorney General Nicholas Katzenbach on March 8, 1965. Later that day, the president talked to former Tennessee Governor Buford Ellington. He was the president's director of the Office of Emergency Planning and the Johnson administration's liaison with Governor Wallace.
We got a little problem. The biggest problem we have in the Alabama situation is communicating with George Wallace. He apparently has his own very strongly held and positive views on just how this thing ought to be handled. And the sheriff is pretty rough in his operations. And they're going to have another march tomorrow. And as we see it, it's going to go from bad to worse. And we don't know what program he has to eliminate it. We don't know really, don't have the answers here. We have some ideas, and it would improve the situation a good deal if we could speak freely with him and with confidence in each other. But we have nobody could do that. Do you think that you have that much standing with him?
Mr. President, I talked with George, I guess 10 minutes Friday about the Appalachian Bill. I called him about the Appalachian Bill, and we got off into various conversations and talked. He was most friendly and wanted me to tell you, other than for a free textbook bill that he had coming up in the Senate tomorrow, he would definitely be here for the signing of the bill. My relationship with George has been very good, but you can't trust him. You talk to him, you don't know what he's going to say that you said, and all of these things. But I can talk to him anytime. But it is an element of danger there in talking with George.
You think he believes you?
He'll trust me, yes, sir.
I think what I'd do then is to call the Attorney General and go over and sit down with him when it's convenient for him today. And his feeling is that, well, he can go over it all with you better than I can, but I would explore it cautiously and carefully and not dash into anything, just without thinking it through pretty well. But it seems to me that this might be a possible approach. That you could say, Governor, we are very concerned with what happens, as you know, and they want us to send troops in. And they say if we can send them into Vietnam, we can send them in to protect Americans that are being, 100 of them being beat up here. And, of course, you know how our feeling about sending troops is. We've shown that. We're not very anxious to get in that business. But the three judges down there that might give an injunction today to stop the sheriff from interfering with the registration. He won't let them get up to register, and then he is pretty brutal with them.
I know the whole background, and I know the whole situation. And as I say, George and I have been in contact along, and I can talk to him on a friendly basis, but he's the kind of man, Mr. President, that I'd like to have somebody sitting with me because...
Yeah, that's right. Well, you could do it with the Attorney General. I'd take my conversation with him. So
that's right.
They'll Attorney General arrange that, but then you might, I think if he let them march a little bit, I don't think you'd have to march the 50 miles down the highway, but if they had any parallel roads that they could march on or some things that way, or by planning or arranging or agreeing some way where it didn't affect traffic and didn't endanger lives. John Doerr is down there. He's a pretty level-headed fella. We had 20 or 30 full of FBI men there yesterday. One of them got beat up pretty bad, and I believe by one of the state troopers and one of the private citizens, and things of that kind. But I rather think, I don't know, but my guess is there might be 3 or 4 things that could explore with the Attorney General. One of them would be permit them to march a part of the way, or 2 would be seeing if they couldn't get some local citizens to sit down and talk to them, where they could exchange views short of clubs, where they could maybe try to talk and see if they couldn't get some kind of agreement that they'd carry out the court order, and local citizens would talk to them about it, as they did in Florida and as they have in other places. Partial march maybe, and exchange views, and other things, whatever other alternatives there might be, maybe a couple more. Attorney General go over them, and if any of them appeal to you as offering any practical hope, you might call Wallace and just say, now, I want to talk to you about this thing. I'm here because I come from Tennessee, and I know the situation. Some of them have talked to me about it, and they've asked my advice. I want to give them advice. I don't want to be giving you advice, but before I do, before I talk to the Attorney General and others, I'd like to explore some things I've thought of and see, George, what you think about it, and see if there is any way that we might find a solution that would be acceptable to the local and state authorities, and that might stop some of this stuff, or that we might be able to work with. And it's awfully important to not get out until we talk to the other side, too, and we don't have any control over either side, but we sure don't want to get in a position where we have to send in troops, make it worse. And I just thought I'd exchange views with you, something like that, without him thinking we're trying to run his business at all, but we're trying to help him, because that's what we're trying to do. So I will, if you don't mind, you call the Attorney General's secretary and tell her that where you are, and that if the Attorney General, if the President's talked to you, and if the Attorney General is free to see you any time today, that you'll come and see him.
Mr. President, I'll definitely do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
President Johnson and former Tennessee Governor Buford Ellington on March 8, 1965. 8 days after Bloody Sunday, the President went before Congress and the nation.
In our time, we have come to live with the moments of great crisis. Our lives have been marked with debate about great issues of war and peace, issues of prosperity and depression. But rarely in any time does an issue lay bare the secret heart of America itself. Rarely are we met with a challenge, not to our growth or abundance, or our welfare or our security, but rather to the values and the purposes and the meaning of our beloved nation. The issue of equal rights for American Negroes is such an issue. And should we defeat every enemy, and should we double our wealth and conquer the stars, and still be unequal to this issue, then we will have failed as a people and as a nation. For with a country as with a person, what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? There is no Negro problem. There is no Southern problem. There is no Northern problem. There is only an American problem. And we are met here tonight as Americans, not as Democrats or Republicans. We are met here as Americans to solve that problem.
He also called for the passage of a new voting rights bill, using the language of the civil rights movement itself.
But even if we pass this bill, the battle will not be over. What happened in Selma is part of a far larger movement which reaches into every section and state of America. It is the effort of American Negroes to secure for themselves the full blessings of American life. Their cause must be our cause too. because it's not just Negroes, but really it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice. And we shall overcome.
3 days later, the president talked to Alabama Governor George Wallace about the possibility of another protest planned for Selma.
Governor?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir. Glad to hear you.
Well, I'm glad to hear you. Governor Ellington said that you were standing by and that I could call you.
Yes, sir. I'm always standing by, and you always call me anytime you want to.
Well, thank you very much. I wanted to, Mr. President, I want to give you just a brief rundown. I know how busy you are. The court, as you know, has ordered this march, and of course it's an unlimited march. And, we have very limited amounts of state policemen, and they are off the roads, and we've had drunken drivers running into people and killing them the last 8 weeks as a result of not having adequate protection on the highways, and these people are pouring in from all over the country. The hotels of all the cities are full, and the motels, some of the motels going up double on the price, so we've got plenty and they're flying in nuns and priests, and we got hundreds of bearded beatniks in front of my Capitol now. And the point I'm making is that we're going to do the best we can, but we hope that you might use your influence to at least make them have an orderly march, and because I don't know, it looks like the group coming here with the language they're using. They made a speech on the streets of our city 2 days ago, and James Foreman suggested in front of all the nuns and priests that if anybody went in a cafe and they wouldn't serve them, to kick the legs of the tables off. They're all making that kind of intemperate remarks and inflames people, But I'm asking people I'm going to ask them to stay away from this highway, to use your superior discipline, and I'm going to do everything that I can. But now, all I want to say, quite frankly, is that they've been stirred up by a lot of things, and of course, I know you don't want anything to happen that looks like a revolution, but if these people keep pouring in here and conducting themselves in the manner they are, why, it's going to take it's going to take everybody in the country to stop something, and and they're also pouring in from other parts of the country, I reckon, on both sides.
Well, Governor, the court has acted now, and obviously the longer the march is postponed, the greater the presence, and the longer the people on the outside are going to stay in Alabama, and the more problem you're going to have, and the more problem I'm going to have, and the more problem the country is going to have. And I think that your concern is justified, and if you can do anything to get that request for stay out of the way, so we don't have to sit here and wait days and days and days for that to be acted on while this stuff builds up and blows the cork out, why, it would be good. And if you'd call up your own guard, their conduct has been very good. If you say your patrolman got to go on back to watch the highways, you call up your own guard and into the service of the state, and I would ask our best people to cooperate, our Defense Department, to provide a group of counselors, advisors to work with them, and I would, if you wanted me to, work with you and assure you that proper contingencies of men would be stationed at Craig and Maxwell in the event that the unlikely event they were needed. And if the situation were to deteriorate, we can't always anticipate. Maybe we'd have to federalize them, but put them under a single command, and the troops in Craig and Maxwell could be called in. I would be glad to take those steps if you felt that the orderly needs of the situation there justified it and required it, and maybe by all of us saying to them, let's have the march, let's get it over as soon as we can, let's everybody stay at home at will, and let's don't, when you talk about a revolution, that really upsets us all, and we don't want to. I know you don't, and I know I don't, and we just got to work together best we can to see that we discharge our duties, and I'm willing to do it if this is what you want.
Well, let me say this, Mr. President. When I say revolution, of course, I think...
Oh, I know. I know what you mean. I understand that.
I do have some revolutionaries down
Well,
here.
I know that. I understand that.
But, and of course, if I was a revolutionary, I probably could invite 250,000 people to come help us, but of course, I don't want anything like that at all.
I know.
don't want to get hurt. But the reason I don't want to be in the position of intimating that I'm asking for federal troops or anything of that sort, I just hope that, of course, this stay was asked for the purpose that I just don't see. Actually, this, of course, we know the Justice Department's in contact with the court down here, but what we want to know is this: if after this march is over and we strain ourselves and beg our people and we don't have any trouble, of course, we've got some in their ranks that we have ministers down here that walk up and scratch the patrolmen on their hands, you know, and they turn it around. And they go preach yesterday, asked all the patrolmen what their wives were doing, where reckon some of their friends could have dates with their wives, you know, trying to provoke them, those kind of things, you know, and we're telling them just take all that stuff, don't pay any attention. But what we want to know, what after the march is over? Now, I've asked for 10 extra to register, given all these boards 10 extra days to register. Got my free textbook passed yesterday in the Senate for the Negroes, more Negroes and whites, of course, will be involved in that. It'll help them more. And what about the next day after the march is over? These 50,000 people, how many jams in this place going to be here the next day and the next day and the next day? They're going to bankrupt our state, and we don't have the money of course, if they want to take, if these revolutionaries, as I call them, want the federal government to take a state over, of course, they will probably precipitate a condition that will maybe sometime require that. Unless we can use a good influence of your office to say you've made your march, now let's don't keep marching. That's what I'm worried about. What after the march, Mr. President?
I guess no one can really prophesy what any group will do. I sure don't know. I wish I knew. I had the feeling that from what Governor Ellington and the Attorney General had said, and they were both very understanding of the situation and of your problem and our problem, that I might issue a statement later today saying that I ask people to not go into the state, and that we're going to jointly try to protect the march in accordance with the order of the court, but that the more problem they give us, the more people, the greater trouble is. I would hope that if your men, your highway people, have to go back, as you suggest, that I think it'd be better if you called up the Guard in the service of the state, and I just approved it and gave some advisors with them rather than our doing it, and then I would just have available, as we have had, proper contingencies there in case, in the unlikely event that the police and the Guard and our appeals were not sufficient. And if the situation deteriorated, then I would have to give some thought to federalizing the Guard and putting it under single command with the Craig and Maxwell people. But I would start out, if I could, trying to say to them that we want to get the order carried out as promptly as we can. I thought your statement on the election thing was good. I thought on the voting thing was good. I thought that the whole appearance the other day was helpful. And the ticker today carries stories. I haven't seen the paper, but about your education statement to the educators. And that's going to have its effect, and a good effect. But we're confronted with a fact and not a theory, and we can't wait till it's too late. And if your highway patrolmen are going back to the highways to take care of the drunken drivers and things like that, and you've got this group of that's coming, and the highways moving, and the tourist courts filling up, I would, if you call up your guard, I'll put the best people we've got to work right with them, and our people here applaud the conduct of the guard the last time they had them. They think you're all right, and we'll just we'll have sitting back alerted, ready for whatever help you need these others. And I think I just say that, and I think I just ought to say it. I'm asking people in the country not to let this thing get out of hand, and we don't need any more marching down there. They got enough to march.
Well, I think that would be excellent, and here's what I'll do. We're going to keep close touch with the situation.
Wait a minute, let me put the Attorney General on, so if he's got any question here, he can ask you. He's on line 1. I'm going to leave here in a little bit, trying to go down Texas. Mash number 190, Nick. 90, the top one. Attorney General?
Yes. Oh, Governor.
Governor, you hear him?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Go ahead, Governor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm on, too. I'll just stay here. I just wanted him to hear what the program was, because I'm getting...
Well, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to keep close touch with the situation, and I'm going to do whatever we consider necessary to maintain law and order. In other words, we're going to use the patrolmen we have available and all the other forces, and we will take any other step. We need them if it were necessary. We call the guard. If we thought that's necessary, we've got them alerted, because we are wanting to protect the marchers and other folks too. But I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate the fact that you may make an appeal that there's enough people in the state to march without other folks coming in.
Well, I would seriously consider doing that. I don't want to wait now. If you send your folks back, as Governor Ellington indicated, that you're going to have some of them return to the work they're doing. I don't want that to get out of hand where I'll be called on and I'll have to go have to take action. I want you to take the action, if you will, take it with your guard, so the governor of the state can do it, and we'll supplement it and support you.
Well, what I mean is, Mr. President, I'm not going to take them away, but I'm just saying that if this matter continues on and on and on, we've got to we've got to have these people in other parts of the state. After the march is over, we can handle through the march, but then after the march, if they're going to just stay in this state 8 weeks and congregate 50,000 strong a day, then we're going to have a revolution. Well, I don't mean that you use the word revolution. We're just going to have some trouble, and we'll have to have help. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to control people. The pickets now in Selma are picketing private residences. 30 of them went to the mayor's home, marching around his house, around on his own private property.
Well, don't you think we ought to act before it gets beyond where we can?
Well, it's not in any such condition as that now.
I thought you felt like it. We ought to have some guard called up.
Well, I've got the guard alerted, and let's see about when the march takes place. We are not worried about the march itself so much. We're going to be able to handle that. But if they are there the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day, that's what we're concerned with more than anything else. It'll be hard to keep our patrolmen away another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and so I don't mean to indicate to you at all that we can't handle the situation, but if they stay on and on and on, that's when it might get unmanageable.
Governor, isn't it Nick Katzenbach, Governor?
Yes, sir.
I think that of course, whether they stay on and on and on and what
Well, they're
happens.
going to stay there till they take action, Governor. That's what they're going to do.
Well, you mean action on the voter business?
I think if that march goes well and goes smoothly and they are protected and there's no incidents, that's the best chance if they're not staying on and on.
Well, let me say this, that I'm going on statewide television tonight and tell people that I told them at Tuscaloosa that if you want to stand with me, I'm asking you to stay away and to use your restraint. And I believe that the people are going to listen to me because the people are for me in this state, and so far they've done what I've asked them to do. And we can, in my judgment, we're not going to have any trouble on the march. And if you say that will help us keep them from staying on and on, that's what we're going to do.
Gifford, you want to say anything?
Just the appeal that there's no need of everybody going to Alabama is what I'm trying. We like tourists, but we're overflowing with tourists right now.
George,
Yes, sir.
Buford,
Yes, sir.
I think this, from our conversation this morning and so forth, I think the wisest move you can make is to put your men back out on the highways and call your guard. I'll say it in all frankness, because then when they get there, the disbursement of these people is going to be a problem. And that way, I think we get it all over with at once.
Yes.
And I think it'll work out better.
Well, I consider that. I tell you this, that we've got them alerted, and I'm going to do what's necessary, and we may do that. But I do say we can handle it right now.
I think if they know you're going to call out the guard, then this wild element is not going to come to Alabama in the droves that they're going to come under the conditions you're in.
Yes.
That's the thing that I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of the good people on either side.
Well, of course, I hate to call out the guard, and you all federalize it this time I call them out.
I'm not worried about that. You can take my word, I'm not worried about that. And I'm standing in front of all these people while we talk.
Yes.
As long as we keep our heads together and cooperate to find a solution.
Well, I hope that you all really convinced that I don't want anything to happen.
I am, I can tell you that, and I feel like I can speak for all the rest of these men.
Well, I appreciate you all talking to me. And just remember this, we are surveying and we're going to take what action necessary to protect. Now, let me say this, when we say protect, it's almost impossible to guarantee that one person ain't going to get hit with a rock. You know, the president of our nation was slain with all the protection he had over in Texas, and you just sometimes can't guarantee that nobody's going to get hit with a rock or something, because if they can't protect our president from being brutally slain, why it's sometimes hard to keep somebody from getting hit with a rock.
Governor, that's sure right. We know that. Of course, we got to, if we could have anticipated or had any idea something like this might have happened, well, we might have had our guard out. We know we got trouble ahead here. We can see it coming, and I sure want to express the hope that whatever facilities you have, that we not act too late, and we're not going to nationalize that guard unless the situation becomes such that we think that law and order require it, and it deteriorates. And we think the way to do it was the way Buford suggested to me, that let's try to get this stay out of the way and let the march start before people can get there from these other states. And you call up your guard, let them know that you're going to do it. And we'll applaud the conduct of your guard the last time it was used. And we'll have people available, alerted, if you don't have enough. And then that way, I think we've taken every precaution. And we wouldn't federalize any guard unless it just got to the point where that was all that was left. But we want to take this through you before it gets all out of proportion. Now, you're on the scene, you can see it better than we can, and if you have a different viewpoint and you think that you got it in hand, well...
George, are you by yourself?
Yes. No, sir. I have Mr. Trammell and Mr. Jackson.
That's all right. I'm not worried about them. Here's my thinking in it. I haven't even discussed this with the president, but here's what I've had in the back of my mind all the time. this radical element is lingo, and some of the boys are branded. You know that.
Yes.
And I think completely removing them from the scene and back on their duties of patrolling, bringing in new faces under new conditions, I think it's the only way we're going to solve this thing.
Our people who are at the head of the thing going to do their office work, and we're going to have not going to have the general out front. We're going to have the corporals and sergeants out front. I think that's a good way to express that.
Yeah. See, I think very strong. The more strength you show right here in this time depends on the quickest solution to this thing is. Of course, what you want and what we want is to get them out of there.
I'll show strength insofar as protecting the people on the march. But I would like for you all to help me after they've made their point. Now, you say they're going to stay here till the problem solved. But if everything that they are asking for, they'll be here from now on because the people of the state are not going to concede in the next year.
Well, I don't think you get what we mean there. I think the fact is that once the march is over and is successful under the Guard sponsorship, then they would move on.
Yes, well, now that's fine. That's all right. That sounds good.
I don't think by that, Governors and the Katzenbach get it. It means that the whole thing is over. But this march, you build up to a heck of a lot of people on this march.
Yes.
If that goes over and nothing happens and there's no incidents, then I think most of those people are going to go. Now, you may still have problems here and there, and you may
don't
still
need to
have
talk to me anymore. I've got that nomination been received. Governor, I want to do whatever I can to be helpful and to get this thing as peaceful as I can. I thought Governor Ellington and you all had kind of had a meeting of the minds on it. Now, if you got any suggestion, what do you want to do? Look at it again and then...
We'll have a meeting of the mind, Mr. President. The meeting of the mind is that we'll do whatever is necessary because I'm just as concerned as you are about nothing happening, and I'll do whatever it takes. If it takes 10,000 guardsmen, we'll have them. I'll do whatever's necessary, and I won't wait too late. Of course, you know...
That's okay. That's good. And you'll be back. You keep in touch with Buford, and I'll be flying away in a little later in the afternoon, but I'll be in constant touch with the situation, and you call us anytime.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
President Johnson and Alabama Governor George Wallace on March 18, 1965. On March 21st, some 2,000 people set out from Selma. Martin Luther King was there too. He spoke to CBS News about whether progress was being made in Alabama.
Well, I think this is a demonstration of progress that is definitely being made. The fact that once our people were totally and terribly brutalized here, and today we can march by this very same spot without being stopped and without being harassed up to this point, represents a level of progress that's very significant.
Have all the activities of the past weeks in Selma come to fruition now? Is this the grand climax?
I would say this and its culmination in the march on the Capitol on Thursday. This is certainly the high moment and the high point in the struggle in Alabama. Now, this does not mean that we will hold up our work in the Black Belt. We will continue. But I would think that this whole experience, this march, which will culminate in Montgomery on Thursday, represents a real high point in our movement.
After walking some 12 hours a day, they reached Montgomery on March 25th. That night, Viola Gregg Liuzzo, a white married mother of 5 from Detroit, was driving another civil rights worker, an African-American teenager named Leroy Moten, back to Selma when another car pulled alongside hers. One of the passengers in the neighboring car shot at Liuzzo, striking her in the face and killing her. Mr. Moten was injured but survived. The following day, President Johnson announced the arrest of 4 members of the Ku Klux Klan: Eugene Thomas, Collie Leroy Wilkins Jr., William Eaton, and Gary Thomas Rowe, who was later revealed to be an FBI informant. The president discussed the situation in 2 calls with FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover on March 26th.
One of our men in the car. Fortunately, he, of course, had no gun and did no shooting. But he has identified the 2 men who had guns and who fired guns.
I think there were about 10 or 12 shots fired into the car in which this woman was.
6-shooter or shotgun?
I think they're revolvers.
Mm-hmm.
And they discussed after it was over that if the woman died, that they were going to throw the guns into the blast furnace where they work, in those steel mills down there. And that's what we are laying for now, to head off from these individuals when they come to work this morning and shake them down. If we are lucky enough to find a gun on them, that'll be the big break in the case. But in any event, whether we find the gun or not, we know who they are, and then we'll bring them in and shake them down in interrogation.
Thank you so much, Edgar. As usual, you're right on top of it, and this is 8:15 now, and you call me and make them get through to me. I checked last night about 1, and they gave me the full information, and I've just heard a little while ago about this fellow calling me. I didn't know anything about it, and I think I'll call him. You see no reason why I shouldn't, do you?
I see no reason why you shouldn't. The radio said he was very angry because they wouldn't put him through to you last night. I don't see any reason why he should have been expected to be put through. He could have called the Department of Justice or the FBI, anyone there. I don't know anybody's on duty in the department at night, but we're on duty 24 hours a day there.
Yes, I talked there several times. Agent Swanson was very helpful to me.
Well, we always have 1 or 2 men on duty all the time, so that if anything does break, they can at once alert me. And I was alerted during the morning to make certain. I've talked with Sullivan, who is the inspector in charge down there, to immediately move in and take hold of this case. He's been on the march from Selma to Montgomery. But this thing is now broken, and he is over there by this time and has taken charge of it. We've got the informant in the office, and we're talking to him because he's scared to death, naturally, because he fears for his life. But
what is an infiltrator and an informant? You hire someone, and they join the Klan and keep...
We only go to someone who is in the Klan and persuade him to work for the government. We pay him for it. Sometimes they demand a pretty high price, and other times they don't. Now, for instance, in those 3 bodies we found in Mississippi, we had to pay $30,000 for that. And who gave us the identity, gave us the place where the bodies were found. And then after we found the bodies, we ascertained the identity of 1 man. And from him, we broke him down, and he gave us the identities of the other 19, 2 of whom confessed. Now, this man that we have now, this informant, he's not a regular agent of the Bureau, but he's one of these people that we put in just like we do into the Communist Party and so forth, so they'll keep us informed. And fortunately, he happened to be in on this thing last night. Otherwise, we'd be looking for a needle in the haystack.
That's wonderful, Edgar. Thank you so much.
All right, indeed, Mr. President. Thank you.
The two talked again later in the day.
Hello?
Edgar.
Yes, Mr. President.
They want me to talk to the husband of this woman that was killed. I've had the council over here talk to her, and they want me the man in the White House switchboard last night indicated that I would talk to him and wake up.
Yeah.
And it's been all over the TV and everything.
Yeah.
Now, before I talk to him, I wanted to check and have you check, be sure that you don't have anything or any reason why I shouldn't, because in your file he's a Teamster man.
Yes, he's a Teamster man. He's one of their so-called agents. And he has had I wouldn't say a bad character, but he's well known out there as being one of the Teamster strong arm men. And this woman, his wife, we found on her body numerous needle points indicating that she may have been taking dope. We can't say that definitely because she's dead. But I would be somewhat inclined, if it could be done, to have somebody like White or somebody of that kind talk to him rather than you talk to him.
All right, White's already talked to him, expressed our sympathy, and told him that we're working on it.
Yeah.
And,
well, I think the thing is in pretty good shape, because I'm going to talk, as soon as I finish talking to you, I'm going to talk to the men in Alabama, and we're going to try to get warrants out right away to arrest the other 3 men who were in the car with our informant. They're at home today. They didn't go to work, so therefore they couldn't have disposed of their guns in the blast furnace. But our purpose is to file the same kind of warrants that we filed in the Penn case in Georgia,
door is down in Alabama, and we'll have my inspector contact door and then phone me back as to what they decide they can do or will do, and then I'll let you know.
Please do, because they're running me crazy over here.
I'll get word down there right away, and I'll have word back, because what we want to do is get these fellas into custody. The car is in the yard of one of these four men, or one of the four is the informant, but the car's in the yard of one of the other three that they used last night, this red Impala. And there were two men in the car, whose names we have. I think one is named Wilkins and one is named Eaton, who both fired. One was a .38 revolver and one was a .22 revolver. So that we've got it pretty well pinned down on that, together, as I say, with this statement of this informant. Incidentally, they went earlier in the evening yesterday in Selma, went to some restaurant there to have dinner, and as they came out, a man came up to Wilkins or Eaton and said, "Now, I've done my job, you do yours." It was one of the men that is charged with the killing of this minister in Boston. So we have an added witness in the form of this informant who overheard that conversation last night. So this thing had been apparently a clan conspiracy that had been well planned out, first to get rid of Hebe, and then they going after this car. They accidentally ran onto this car by reason of the fact this colored man was snugging up pretty close to the white woman who was driving. But I think if within the next hour, and I'm quite certain I'll have definite word, I'm going to talk to Alabama right away. If Dorr agrees to the serving of the warrants, and the warrants are served, I'll have them served at once. We have the houses under surveillance. Then I can notify you, and you can make the statement from the White House.
Do that, Edgar, or maybe you and the Attorney General come over and just walk in. If you get here before the astronauts, they're going to be here at 11 or something. But if you could get here, I just suggest you say to the Attorney General that I kept up with it during the night. I just suggest when you got some information, do it, and then it gives me a chance to show what good work the FBI has done and how the Attorney General has done it. And we're all together, and we work at this thing, and you just 24 hours you've produced results. I think it might make it a little dramatic. I think it would get in your car, and the two of you ride over and let the television cover you as you come in, and you don't have to have any appointment. Just call George Reedy and say, "I'm coming over to see the president." Yes. Period. And then tell the Attorney General so he doesn't.
I'll get him word on that right away.
You all just get in the car and come on over any moment.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I'll speed this thing up right away. Fine.
From March 26, 1965, President Johnson and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover talking about the KKK murder of civil rights worker Viola Gregg Liuzzo. Coming up on the next episode of Presidential Recordings, conversations with Martin Luther King Jr. and Senate and House leadership as President Johnson works to turn his voting rights bill into law. The Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library and Foundation, along with the University of Virginia Miller Center, have more conversations from the Johnson presidency. You can find them at lbjtapes.org.